All right, welcome back. Engine House Training Podcast. We're gonna mix up, gonna try something new. We're gonna go back and forth between the live Zooms. Everyone's been enjoying those. We took a little break for summer. You know, no excuses, but stuff got in the way with family, so we're back at it. We're gonna alternate between the lives, and this one's gonna be pre-recorded. We're gonna try and do a couple a month moving forward. So tonight, get lucky enough to have Tim Schultz on here and Gary Graff from Engine House Training. Might have one or two of our other guys jump in a little bit later. But how you guys been doing since I think it's been August since we've put on a podcast in August?
Good. Hanging in there.
Yeah, doing good. Ready to get back at it.
Any exciting videos been or videos? Sorry, I'm looking at myself on video. Any exciting calls or anything off the wall you guys want to discuss before we get into some other stuff?
No, we had a couple of different incidents that were pretty unique. We had one maybe a little over a month ago. Had a kitchen fire. Actually ended up being a hoarder house. It was created some, again, unique challenges within that. A couple of guys that had never really experienced anything like that. The unfortunate part about it is they were the first crew that was assigned to search. So whenever you come into the door and you're experiencing a hoarder condition of something you've never been in before, and the first assignment you have to do a search, a little bit overwhelming, but discussed about some of the things whenever we did the after action for it. And I think it was kind of a good learning lesson for a lot. Kind of another good example. We talk all the time on search when you're doing your search training, make sure that you put shit in the room. We do search training in open floor plan training buildings, which is unrealistic, and especially unrealistic whenever we get into something that's going to be a hoarder condition. So, but other than that, it's been, like I said, had some good calls here and there, and things are finally people are starting to get out and about now. So calls are starting to pick back up a little bit.
Yeah, I've been on a few hoarder fires, and they're very challenging. Really become a pain in the butt. Actually, Tim and I were on one together on different companies working overtime years ago, and we kept getting in there. We'd push in and knock down some fire, and then all the stuff would collapse and we couldn't move the line any further. So I think, what was that, Tim? 5-6 lines off, 4, 5, 6, more than.
Yeah, I forgot about that. Yeah, that was, I think I remember hearing the chief say five lines off at this time.
Which some places doesn't seem like crazy, but for us, that's pretty nice. Yeah, for a house fire to have more than 3 lines off is pretty slim. So a lot of challenges. There's some good stuff out there about hoarder homes. Is that Ryan Pennington, right? He does a class on it, and there's books on Collier's mansions. That's what they call them on that DMI. There's some books out there that are worth checking out. Tim, how about you? Anything crazy? Any unique calls?
Nah, kind of agree with Gary. It's it's been pretty slow the last couple of months, but things are starting to pick back up again. Jeff and I just took a class, actually a big rig rescue class. It was a good little class, something kind of outside of the box that we don't run into every day. Got to get our hands on some tools and just put ourselves in some unfamiliar situations and problem solve and work through some of that stuff. So it was a good little day. Nice to get out and see people again. And now calls are starting to pick back up and just kind of getting back into it.
Yeah. Without getting too in depth, I know it's not a super cool fire story or anything, but you want to tell them about that weird sprinkler you had where it was in a hidden void space, and kind of the unique building construction aspects of that run when you were in the seat of the pumper?
We hit. What's that?
I think some people can learn from that. I think it's pretty. I found it interesting anyway.
Yeah, we had a I'll try and make this as quick as possible. But we had we got a call at like 2 a.m. for a fire alarm sounding. We get there and we get to the lobby of this business, and they had a sprinkler head off. Just water coming in, soaking the drop ceiling and everything. So we go around and we're trying to find a way to isolate it, shut it down. We go back into their warehouse and we start finding risers, and we just start closing these risers off. And there was probably 10 risers in this building, and we went to every one that we could find and we closed them down. And the water continued to run. So then we couldn't, the sprinkler head, the drop ceiling was like 10 feet up, but the sprinkler head was like 30 feet up. It used to be an old hayloft, I guess, years ago when when this building was something completely different. And it was an old, heavy timber kind of construction in the attic. So they had these sprinklers up there to, protect from any fire running the attic and doing all that stuff. So we couldn't get to it from the ground. And we couldn't get to it with a ladder because it was a solid floor up above. So what we ended up having to do was go out into the warehouse. We threw a 24-foot ladder. We found a little knockout of drywall that I think the HVAC guy was up there, and he had left a square of drywall that was still removable. So we crawled up there, removed that square of drywall, and that put us right out onto what was essentially the hayloft floor. And then we shimmied up into the trusses and put one of those expanding clamps. I don't know the name for it. It almost looks like a caulk gun, and you pump it and it expands out in that sprinkler head and stops the flow of water. So we were able to try and help preserve some kind of property, I guess. But the water had been flowing for quite some time. Then come to find out, the OS&Y, I guess, on the riser, it was closed like 7/8, but the valve was seized up, and the sprinkler guy got there, put like a cheater bar on in the wheel, and ended up getting it to shut off, and that was the last final click. So they were going to go in and replace all that. But yeah, it was those sprinkler heads, I guess, and you never really think about them being up somewhere you can't get to them, but it was kind of an ordeal to get to it and to stop the flow of water and try and help those guys out a little bit. So that's all.
Yeah, I found that interesting story. Hearing it from you guys. But the point I wanted to make, why I had you even tell that story, is because anybody that has any older type buildings in their area, and you need to be aware of what that building used to be, how's it changed over the years. I mean, you have all these hidden void spaces that weren't there years ago. You mentioned heavy timber buildings that, they get couple layers of ceilings. I mean, we ran into it the other day at a house fire. Everybody thought the ceiling was pulled, ended up being another ceiling that we couldn't reach with 6-foot hooks. And there was a whole nother ceiling up there that the fire was running unchecked because they came in and added additions and added a ceiling and went more energy efficient. So I don't know, Gary, if you got anything that pops up in your mind on, buildings like that and stuff you've run into over the years.
Some of the biggest thing we're finding with stuff with building construction is, new guys coming in, they don't have some of the trade experiences like get people used to. Go out and familiarize them with the buildings, familiarize them with building construction, especially when you start talking about, similar like Tim was talking about, when you start having buildings that are modified, added on to, when we're seeing a lot of with like additions, where you have multiple attics inside of the building, maybe different basements where the basements might be divided, or part of the house will have a full basement, part of it will have a crawl space, just different areas where they blended different types of buildings together. I had one week or two ago we went mutual aid on, and it was actually, the original building was actually an old Route 66 street side house, and has been added on to probably three, if not four times. Each edition had its own attic area. So it had everything from the original attic area where it actually had dimensional 2x6 to all the way down to lightweight trusses. So, you know, your new people coming in, make sure that they understand building construction and go out and look in these buildings and walk around them and just get them familiar with them, because a lot of those are creating voids and unique fire situations, and we got to understand what we're dealing with whenever we pull up to them, or at least what to look for, of seeing if it's an add-on or part of the original building. Even, you know, going back to the call we had with a hoarder house, it was actually unique, which we knew it before because of the subdivision it was in. But the entire subdivision, it was built, basically it was Chrysler housing. Whenever the Chrysler automotive plant opened up down the road 20 miles, this entire subdivision was brought in. It was all modular construction, and every building in that subdivision had a flat roof. So then over the years, they came in behind there and actually put rain roofs on the top of them. So as you look at the building, it's a trussed roof, but it's got a flat roof underneath of them. And there's a telltale on every one where you can tell, you know, in the subdivision, probably 90% of the houses are like that. And there's a place that you can tell on that. But the majority of the guys that were there didn't know that, because it's the first time they've ever fought a fire in a house in that subdivision. So, you know, get out and look at the buildings, make sure you pass that information along. You know, if you're the senior person, you know, mentor these guys coming in so that they understand the buildings in your district and the tricky buildings that you're going to be encountering.
Yeah, I actually wrote. It's funny you brought that up, because I wrote in my notes while you were talking, and Tim, and talking about rain roofs and all this stuff. And you know, we run into them occasionally, not all the time, but run into them. And if you're cutting them and you're opening them up, it's a huge void space in there. But you kind of almost got to go back to like a USAR type mentality and doing your step cuts. Very similar to, you know, I know our friends up in, we got some guys that teach it with us and owners up in Creve Coeur. They had a good commercial building fire, and it had a Q-decked membrane roof, you know, and a lot of times with that foam, it's so thick, you also got a step cut there. So you got to make your hole with a rain roof, or with a membrane roof, you got to make it bigger than you want your final hole to be, so you have room to fit the saws down inside and work. And it's pretty labor intensive operation. So glad you brought up rain roofs. And really the only way to do this, and you know, it's no fault of Tim, because he's just over there, he's on a captain's list, so he's just filling in, obviously. And it's hard right now with COVID, but as soon as this gets all cleared up, you need to be in these buildings as much as possible. You know, there's no reason why, and we did it when we were on the 17s. We would go to a building every day except Sundays. You know, you'd pick one commercial building and go do a walkthrough before we went to the store, and it worked out. You really get to know your area. For company officers that are in areas where, you know, they're building new subdivisions, get in there, you know, once every couple of weeks and monitor progress of these houses and how they're put together. And that's a perfect opportunity to teach a newer member that may not know some of that building construction stuff you talked about. You guys got anything else you want to add on that?
No, I think it's a good little start.
All right. So, you know, Gary, this is for, you know, we were all obviously alive, and then I had just gotten started being an explorer, maybe been an explorer for a 2 years at the time. And, you know, something hit me the other day, or I guess a couple weeks ago. I was doing evals for the county academy, and part of the state's process is checking IDs, and I started checking IDs. And we're getting to the generation now where we have firefighters coming into the service that weren't involved or even alive when 9/11 happened. So I guess my question for you, Gary, being a training officer and a chief, and how do you think moving forward we need to share those lessons and talk about what we learned and the sacrifice those guys made, and keep that memory alive? And obviously, none of us were there, but I think it's the greatest rescue in the history of the fire service ever. And I think there's some stuff that we can learn and pass on to some of these newer guys coming on, that, and girls for that matter, that weren't even born when it happened.
So you're gonna let me start with this since I'm the old guy?
Well, I don't think you're old.
Is that
You
what
kinda
you're
said
saying?
in a roundabout way.
What you're saying?
Chief,
just
training
wait-
officer, oldest
Yeah.
guy here.
Well, you're
Just wait till you start hiring guys that weren't even alive when you graduated high school. That's when you know you're the old guy.
well. I didn't want to point it out, but
Thanks, man.
I may be losing
No,
some hair,
but
but you're the only one with gray at this point.
Thanks. Thanks for pointing that out. No, with that, and we go back to like you were talking about with on the stuff with 9/11, and I think the other night whenever we had our Fools meeting, I think Jimmy said it the best. For everything that we remember within the fire service of that, we can't remember that it wasn't just 343 people that died. We got to remember all of the EMS workers, the law enforcement, all of the civilians, and everything else. So that becomes, just teaching them history in general. But like you said, the aspect of it, of what those guys did on that day, as far as doing their job, they didn't hesitate to do their job based upon knowing the danger and what was going to be involved in the complexity of that incident. But I think not just with 9/11, I think with anything, we do a lot of reviewing on different things with line of duty deaths, firefighter fatalities, certain things with certain calls. And we got to make sure that we continually pass that along. There's a lot of great history that we have within the fire service that, guys have to understand where certain things have come from. The unfortunate part about some of it is there's a lot of different drills and trainings and things that we do, especially tied in with RIT, that they're tied to a firefighter fatality, and that's the reason, the name for the drill a lot of times. So not just something can't just become a title. We have to make sure that we're educating the why and understanding the meaning behind it and what was the true sacrifice that was made during that event. Like I said, so yeah, 9/11 is huge, but there's a lot of other ones, that we have to look at and talk about. The other day, and again, I've never in my career done anything like this, or have ever had a desire to. But the other day, I was actually reading a book about the see, there's the old age, the Granite Hot Shots, on that event. A lot of good information there. And again, I've never done anything with wildland firefighting, but it was, a lot of good things in there as far as lessons and situational awareness. And again, understanding their story and what it was that they went through. So I think that's part of it, just making sure that we're educating in our history, keeping the new people coming in, keeping them involved, keep them in check, and don't let those guys and what happened to those guys, let it go in vain. Keep their memory alive for teaching it through training.
Yeah, that's a good point. Tim, what do you got? Got anything to add?
No, I think Gary summed it up pretty well. It's just one of those things that people they talk about, and they say never forget. And I think it's just kind of one of them things to make sure that we don't do. I know, again, this year was a little squirrely because they didn't have the stair climb and some of that stuff. But I think some of those things are good things to do, to get companies together, get people together, and have those talks of things that happened and stuff like that. I mean, it's a super sad event, and like Gary said, I think if you were to ask any of those people, the worst thing that could come of this was them dying in vain, and people not learning lessons and not remembering and not giving it its due time. So that's all I got.
Yeah, and I think it gets overlooked, and in the fire service world, especially, but people worry about the 343 and the 2,700 that died, but I think we need to be proud of the fact, FDNY especially, and realize the over 20,000 people rescued or saved that they got out of the tower on their own, or they assisted, or I mean that's pretty huge. I think if obviously if you take the personal factor out of it, if you just gave any fire chief the broad scenario, would you sacrifice 343 people to save 20,000? I mean, I think everyone, at least if they're worth their salt, would take that in a heartbeat. So yeah, that's cool. That's good stuff.
And even kind of like Tim was saying with some of the stuff with the stair climbs this year getting postponed, and even I've even noticed this, going back to your original point, Jeff. I've noticed this over the last couple of years as you start seeing some of the younger people getting into it that weren't alive or at the time hadn't been born yet or don't remember it. It seems like even on those events, they don't even take those events for what they're worth. To some of them, it's like running in a race or a marathon or something. It doesn't seem like they take it serious as far as using it as a memorial and a way to actually use it to remember the guys and memorialize them. It just seems like it's more of an event where it's become more of a fad, if you will, because, oh, this will be cool, let's go do it. So even in that way, educate them that, hey, this isn't, while it's neat to participate and it is fun to do because you're doing it with a lot of your good friends, and it's a way to kind of build camaraderie with each other that way. But again, there's a little bit more to it as far as memorializing those guys and the people that we lost on that day. So I think even during those events, we need to do a little bit better on, truly driving home the meaning of doing those stair climbs.
Yeah, what makes it real for me, and I'm not sure you made this up or not, Gary, but I definitely stole it from you. Is when I do it now, when I climb the steps, I listen to the radio traffic from 9/11, and I got that from you. It kind of drives home why you're doing what you're doing, because obviously we know that the majority of those people on that radio, obviously that was some of their last transmissions, and they never made it away. So that drives it home. But while we're kind of on the subject of new people, and this kind of goes both ways, and we're talking about history, but are you noticing some of the new people coming in not I don't want to say not honoring our history, but maybe not being as perceptive to the senior men and the members that came before us and willing to learn, or even retirees and picking their brains? Is there more of a divide now because they can get so much information online, or what do you guys think about that?
Yeah, I think there's a couple of different things there. And every generation can go into a topic about the new generation. We were talked about whenever we started as far as the new generation. But I think one of the things with it, I think you're correct. They do have a lot of information available at their fingertips. You can right away, you can Google anything, you can fact check anything. So that becomes one of them. I think that depending upon the individual, I don't want to put this as a blanket statement for all, but I'm noticing a lot of newer and younger individuals, some of the lack of respect just for elders, adults, doesn't seem to be as sufficient as what it was whenever I was their age or even younger. And again, I don't know if it's not being taught the same. I don't, again, that's a whole topic and conversation you can go to, but it's not just occurring within the fire service. It's occurring within society in general. even on some of the things that are going on with some of the different, the way some of these different protests and things are being demonstrated. And it just, I mean, look at some of the things going on just in general of lack of law enforcement. Like I said, I think it's becoming more of a lack of respect of society in general, of authority figures, and authority figures, not meaning just law enforcement or whatever, or things like that, but also authority figures of being adults, so there's a lot of different things there. And again, I don't want to make it a full blanket statement, because there are extreme exceptions to the or to the rule, but that's just kind of my thought on it. I think we're seeing more and more of it in general.
You got anything?
Oh,
Go ahead, buddy.
I was just going to kind of agree with Gary, and then take it a step further. I don't know if there is within it. It's, I don't even know if it's a new or an old, but it's I guess not a younger and older, but newer people that I've seen quite a few on our department now that do seem to have some lack of respect. And I'm definitely not of the belief that, because I've been here 12 years, you should respect me. That's not my thought at all. Just, because somebody has been there a certain amount of time, I don't think they automatically, command your unwielding attention, because we all know a lot of people that have been around for 30 years that don't know what's going on. But I guess to pile on to what Gary said, I don't know if it's the newer people that are not issuing the respect, or if it's that older generation not commanding it and not keeping them in line. Because, in organizations, especially big ones like, where Jeff and I work, if 10 guys don't show up tomorrow, like, city's not going to skip a beat. They're going to forget your name before you even turn your gear in. And I think guys from time to time get confused and think they work at a democracy, and it is not a democracy. I mean, at the end of the day, I appreciate everybody's input, but whatever your boss says goes, and that's just kind of how it is. And around the firehouse, I guess there's a little bit of leeway there. Everybody can kind of weigh in and say their piece, but again, at the end of the day, whatever that senior captain in that house decides, and whatever the senior man of that crew decides, like, that's just the way it's gonna be. And some people have trouble kind of accepting that. And I don't know. Again, I don't know if it's the younger generation just being outright disrespectful, or the older generation needing to kick them in the ass to make them be a little bit more respectful. I guess it's the old cart and the horse thing, but it's definitely an interesting thing that I note around our department as well.
Yeah, you know what? Both of you are talking. It's too full. I got 1 year less than Tim with the city, and come October, all my volunteer part-time junior firefighter time be 20 years. I still feel like the new guy, but if you look at it, we got a real young department. And I think a lot of at least the St. Louis area fire service that I'm familiar with is getting younger and younger. So you might have a lack of the true senior guys. Like I said, I still feel like a new guy. Tim, we've had this talk, you do too, but when you're on that truck, you had almost twice the time as the other three guys on the truck combined. So, I mean, someone's going to have to step up and, I guess, be a leader and steer the department going forward, and train and mentor these guys coming underneath us, because I truly believe they just don't know. They've never been taught. It's kind of like when you go down and teach a class, or all of us teach, when we teach something for engine house, and you see someone that doesn't know how to swing an axe or swing a hammer, turn a wrench. I mean, I think you got to assume that they need to be taught everything. And if they were never taught and enforced, chain of command and discipline and all that stuff, we're going to fall short. So I think that's on all of us that have been around longer than some of the other ones. But yeah, the job's only getting younger. I mean, it's not uncommon to have a truck where the senior guy's got 5, 6 years on it, on that apparatus, private wise. So, I don't know.
Yeah, and I mean, I definitely do still think I am a new guy. I mean, I guess if you run the numbers, I'm not even a third of the way through my career yet, and by any definition, by any means, that is a new guy. And man, correct me if I'm wrong, Jeff. I'd like to think that I don't walk around with the attitude that I've got it all figured out. There are some things that I have a really good handle on that I don't want to say I don't want to say I haven't figured out, but when it comes to diet, health and wellness and all that kind of stuff, I got a pretty good handle on that stuff. And I still listen to books. I listen to books about guys that run 100-mile marathons on only vegetarian based diet. Like, I don't plan on ever doing any of that stuff, but I think it's interesting. I'm trying to get out of my comfort zone, and I'm trying to learn more. And I'm not a senior man by any means, but there are some senior men in the St. Louis Fire Department that I have singled out that I think are very effective, and I try and follow and do what they do. And I hope that at some point in time, when somebody needs something, they can look at me and ask me questions, and then ask Jeff questions. I mean, you have to kind of go through your career and pick out guys and pick out things and try and experiment with things that make you a little uncomfortable in order to expand your horizons and make you more, well-rounded. If you're really good on a roof and you don't know how to use a hose line and you go for a year without getting on a roof, like, you're just useless to your department. You have to know how to use a hose line. You have to know how to get on a roof. You have to know how to do all these different things, and seeking people out that know all those different things are, I think it's a real essential part of what we do, especially now that we're expected to do more with less, and something that we never really do talk about that we kind of tell all our new guys. Like, I can teach you how to swing an axe. I can teach you how to drag a hose, but like, I don't know if I can teach you how to get along with people, and getting along with people and understanding people and knowing when it's okay to say what and when to leave a guy go and not be a pain in his ass it's a super important thing. And maybe it's just a lack of people skills we're seeing, in an age with Instagram and Facebook and Twitter and all this stuff. I've seen it a few times. Like, man, you can tell there's a generation of kids growing up that haven't been punched in the mouth very often. And I think Jeff and I are probably on the tail end of the generation that's been punched in the mouth a few times. So we might be seeing that too, just guys used to talking on Facebook and Instagram and not having real personal interactions where you can pick up on those social cues that may get lost. But I guess that's my soapbox.
No, it's all good stuff. Worst case
To
scenario.
go along with that, Tim, kind of what you were saying too. And it goes both ways, that like you said, that newer people don't know how to talk. They don't have the communication skills of, because we didn't grow up with everything on text and that. But I think even within that, some of the mentors within the firehouse, they get to that person who doesn't know how to communicate or how to talk, or they have a hard time understanding or explaining, or they're always asking the why. People always bitch about millennials, but if you truly dig down and you understand millennials and how they function, it's just a matter of, you got to learn how to talk to them. It's the same with any generation. You got to learn how to put it into the perspective of what they want. They're going to ask why, so have the why question to it. They don't talk to people very openly. Sit down and have a conversation with them. So some of those things too, I think, the example, I think you hit the nail on the head earlier whenever you said it's both. The lack of respect from the younger, but the enforcement of the older. We got to understand them. We can't just say, well, it's a new generation, and blow them off. We got to know how to deal with them, how to understand them.
Right, and that's a leadership issue, right? There's no bad teams, only bad leaders. Would you stand by that?
Absolutely.
I mean, it's as a chief or a training chief or a captain or even a senior guy. I mean, that's on you to figure out how to get to those people and how to communicate with them and how to try and bring them into the fold. I don't want to say get them in line, because that's, it's not a do as I say kind of thing until it is. But I mean, you gotta get people to buy in. You can't just write them off and say they're a younger generation and then go do everything yourself, because I mean, that's why we sent 30 people to house fires. We need hands. We need help. You gotta get guys to buy into the mission.
I think there's two good points there, because absolutely, I've seen several times in my short career just change one person out, the captain or a senior man, and can totally turn around a whole company. It's just leadership's huge, and the why, is it's hard, because I remember coming on with, if you ask why, that's the way we've always done it, or because I said so. Well, that doesn't cut it with new people coming on, and I don't think they ask why as like an insult or challenging. And correct me if you guys think I'm wrong. I don't think they're challenging what they say, but they legitimately want to know why. They're used to getting as much information as they want, in the palm of their fingers, literally. And when they ask why, they just really want to know why we do it that way. And saying we've always done it without having whether it's science or the tactics or the reasonings why we do that, that's and we should all want to know why. In my opinion, you should know what you're doing before you do it. Now you're gonna have those mistakes, and why'd you do that? Yeah, I have no clue. I messed up. But I think at the end of the day, if you're teaching and you're going to take a mentor or teaching role or leadership role, and you're going to pass on something to new people, you better understand why you do what you do and be able to answer that in a timely manner, or else they're not going to pay attention to you, and you're not going to get the desired effect.
I know. I personally am very much a why guy, and I don't think I say, like, I don't try and be confrontational with the why, but that's for me not being super smart. That's how I learn. I can remember how to do something if I know why we're doing it. That we don't want this car to tip over, so we're going to stabilize it. Okay, well, I know now multiple different ways to stabilize to accomplish that goal. So if you tell me to stabilize the vehicle so it doesn't tip over, I understand that, and then I can run and do as I see fit, and know that the mission there is stabilization, not necessarily put a strut here, put a strut here, put a strut here, because there's 1,000 different ways to correctly stabilize it. But if I know that the goal of my mission is to stabilize something, I'm good, and I know I can go out and stabilize it as I see fit. But I'm very much a why guy too. I think it's super important to know, why we're doing something and what the actual mission is. And then if you know the mission, you can go about it any way that you see fit. That's appropriate. But I don't know if that even made sense. It made sense in my head.
Sure. And I think some of it too, it used to be the fire service drew in more people who were type A personality, and they were more task oriented, where it was just, you drag the hose from here to there. Okay, go. It was kind of it was more of a urgency. It was a competitiveness or whatever. Whereas now, I don't think it's quite as many with the type A personality. I don't think it's all the way to a type B personality, but it is a little bit where it's more of they don't want to just say, do this and get the task, where they want to say, well, why is this task important? So it's more, you have to do more of the selling of the point of why do you do the task, or why do you do it in this manner, to where they understand it a little bit more, because they are a little bit more relaxed on some of this stuff. So I think it's kind of the same thing on the why. It used to be more of the what, and that fed the type A personality people. Whereas now we have the blended A and B, they need to know, well, why do we need to do that? Because if we don't have to do it that way, then I'm going to do it this way or not do it at all.
I just know that I personally have seen things that were done the way I was told to do them when I came on for whatever reason. But now I've seen a lot of things that work a lot better. So I guess having seen both sides, I'm open to new ideas now. First in on a house fire, emergency scene with people hanging out the windows. Maybe we're not going to try that new stuff right then again because it's not a true democracy. But I'm open to trying all kinds of new stuff and training. We might have a training like I know Jeff and I have done. We were messing with the hose loads on the pumper in our house, and we had a day where we just loaded every different thing we could find and pulled it. And some of them never came out, and some of them came out really good. But I mean, that's what those times are for. Coming up with ideas, trying new stuff, in a training environment where it's a really low risk environment. And like I said, if you want to try throwing a ladder upside down, we can try that. I don't know, maybe you're onto something. But just knowing when to try new things and when to voice your concerns and opinions and when to keep them to yourself is a pretty valuable thing too.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more with all that. All very valid points. I agree with all of it. So I got nothing really to add. With all that being said, I don't have anything else written down. If there's anything else we want to touch on, if not, we'll wrap this up.
No, I got nothing. I think it was a good little quick talk, and I look forward to doing more of these. I always like getting together and talking to you guys, and like I said, I'd do it whether we recorded them or not, so we might as well put them out and see if somebody else can get something out of it.
Yeah, well, Gary, you got a little wrap up before I give the whole spiel?
No, just it was like Tim said, it was good to be kind of just having a quick short conversation, and looking forward to many more and a lot of different topics and areas and opinions out there. So we just need to get the people on and keep moving and continue the conversations.
Yeah. So we'll be back. We're probably gonna get some of the same gang together, some of the original truck podcast guys together next week, and do another little round table. Got some stuff we want to bring up on some trench cuts and some other ventilation, and we got one more in the queue that I'll be getting Gary tonight for our physical fitness one. We'll probably do a follow up on that in a few weeks, and we're gonna mix up some live Zooms and some recorded ones, and we really appreciate everyone tuning in and taking time to listen to the podcast and coming back, whether it's live or on Spotify or iTunes. Yeah, just we're humbled you guys take your time and listen to this and join us. And on behalf of Engine House Training and all the owners and instructors, thanks, and we'll see you guys around.